these the wings and stuff, because I can say not active for pitch, yaw, and roll. I guarantee you, I will tell you what's going to happen. We're going to return from the moon, and I'm going to be in this plane, and I'm going to be trying to fly, and I'm not going to have any control authority, and I'm going to be like, WTF, why is this plane not flying? And I guarantee you it's going to be because I forget to turn these things back on. I should have had an action group. There we go, now we're good. I should have had an action group that would turn them off. But I totally forgot that. So here we go. Get an angle y'all can look at. Let's fast forward around to our burn. 4-second burn, you split your burn in half. So you want to have T minus 2 seconds whenever you start to go. Engines take about a second to spool up, so I start the burn at T minus 3 seconds. And the burn should stop at T minus 2 seconds, or T plus 2 seconds. All the maneuver nodes and that sort of stuff assume that you could impart all your velocity, shut up Valdez and burn, all your velocity in one instant. It wants you to put that 50 meters per second all at the same instant. Since rockets do not work that way, you've actually got to split your burn up a little bit. Turn that light off. Doesn't look like my... Oh, these lights are on. Too many lights are on. Oh wow, that's what's lighting up the front of that, is those landing gear lights. Interesting. We'll leave one on for videography purposes. Scott, you may have had the freaking claw on that thing. If you had the claw on it, it may have had some serious issues with the Kraken, unintended Kraken drive sort of deal going on. So, or it may have not been in quite an orbit. It may have had a periapse that was under the atmosphere, so it got dragged down out of orbit by the atmosphere. 182 meters per second. I'm not going to cry about that. Where's the moon at? Survey says we are here. Our moon burn is going to be in daylight. That's bueno. So let's go ahead and deorbit this guy. I'm not going to worry about the fuel. I'm just going to go ahead and deorbit. Quick save this guy because we want to get to the moon. Go ahead and pop this stage. Manually, I'm going to do it. Poof, decoupled. Alright, let's switch over to it because we only have so much battery power. Use the mighty, mighty probe core to turn this whole shebang around. Oof! Again, I'm going to give it a little rotation. I'm holding down F right now. You can't see my keyboard. But I'm holding down the F key, which is the same as turning off the SAS by pressing the T key. What that lets me do is kind of flip all the way around, not using any of my electrical charge. And then when I get almost to my retrograde vector here, then I'm going to let off. Well, geez, sorry if I make any bored, Scott. You can certainly remedy that with nachos and whiskey. So let's see, I got all flipped around there. My engine is not particularly pointed at him too much. And we're going to do the old just burn it and go back to the ship thing. So I'm going to light this motor all the way up. And I'm going to switch. Let it burn away wherever that thing was going. It's going in a hurry, but it's definitely going to deorbit. We should be able to see it here. Yeah, there we go. It'll just go on down and won't have any extra fuel left. And here we have... That's actually a kind of cool looking ship. I am not a fan of that ship. Let's plan our lunar burn. So there's lots of different ways you can plan the lunar transfer burn, right? I like to use the line of sight method. Basically, you'll hear some people say that if you wait until the moon rises, if you're in a prograde orbit, meaning we're orbiting towards the east on Kerbal, so like we take off, we point to the east, we go around Kerbal in the same direction of its rotation as prograde. We're on a prograde orbit, we see the moon burn, or we see the moon burn, that'd be cool. We see the moon rise over the horizon of Kerbin, if you point at the moon right when it rises and you light up your engine, you will come pretty close to getting an encounter with the moon. That's just the easy way to think about it. That also helps you plan your maneuver node. So see what I'm doing here. You can see right here where the moon is over here and my orbit's right here behind it, right? I've kind of adjusted the screen. Whoops. I've adjusted the screen. Let me zoom in a little bit, so that when I'm right here on the orbit, the moon will be rising. All right? So if you're trying to figure out where to put your burn, this is a good way to do it. Just put the moon just over the horizon, put Kerbin just here. This is kind of a rough guesstimate because the moon's going to move, Kerbin's going to spin, our orbit's going to be a little bit different. But this is how I guesstimate where I need to put that burn marker. Right there. And you can see how when I'm right there, that moon will just be coming up. And all you need to do... Actually, I'm going to go ahead and set this as a target first. So I'm going to click on the moon and do set as target. There's a couple other things you can check. Our ascending node here is 0.2. That's how inclined our orbit is comparative to the moon's orbit. The moon is on a 0 inclination orbit. And if this number, if we got a really bad launch and we were kind of at an inclined orbit, a lot like the ISS has in real life, if our orbit went across the planet at an angle like this, we would want to correct that ascension before we actually try to do our burn to the moon. I got a pretty good launch. My ascending node's only 0.2, so I'm not going to worry about correcting that before we go. This is a pretty much flat orbit. It's pretty much right on with the plane of the moon. The plane of our orbit is equal with the plane of the moon. Basically means we're just both in pretty much flat orbits. So, I've got this maneuver node, knowing that my ascending descending nodes are 0.02. That's close enough. All I need to do, I've already lined up the node right there. You can see the moon through the middle of the maneuver node. Can I zoom that in some? Yeah, there we go. There's the moon through the middle of the maneuver node. Don't touch radial out. Don't touch radial in. Don't touch up. Don't touch down. Don't touch whatever. All you have to do is give it prograde velocity. And you just turn this guy out. And you can see the more we give it prograde, the wider our orbit gets. And just like we did that orbital rendezvous earlier, we're trying to hit the moon. It's like the baseball is flying over. Oh, there it was. It's like a baseball is flying over your head and you want to throw another baseball and hit it while it goes over you. So there you can see that I've got an encounter with the moon. This would not be a lunar orbit, and it would be a retrograde orbit, which is not what we want. That would mean if we caught ourselves up with the moon here, we would actually be going backwards around it in this direction. That's not what we want. We want a prograde orbit on the moon. We want to be going in this direction. So a couple different things we can do. One is we can change our burn time a little bit. Get a little bit more burn time. There we go. That's still going to drag us around behind the moon. Let's change it up a little bit. There we go. That's looking good. Now we've got a slingshot going. Let's get a little bit less. Still putting us behind it. There we go, right there. That's what we want. Alright, so here you can see that we're coming in on the back side of the moon. Let me see if I can get away with this with a little bit less delta V. Okay, there we missed it. So I'm going to pull the orbit back a little bit more. Nope, we're not quite getting there, so we got to have a little bit more delta V. There we go. Alright, that's what I like to see. So this isn't exactly a completely free return trajectory, which means we're not intersecting Kerbin when we get back, but this will put us in a prograde orbit around the moon, which is what we want. We're basically coming in behind the moon, and then we'll catch up with it and go in orbit in this direction. That's what we want. Cost for the burn, 850 meters per second delta V. We had a guy earlier, who was it? Asking about how to reach the... There you go, K9 Officer 09 was asking about how to read the subway maps, the orbital delta V cost maps. If we look at it, this 850 should be just about the right amount from looking on that map. So let me get this burn done, and then I'll see what I can do to bring up one of those and put it on the stream here. I'm honestly not sure how to do that, but I'll figure it out while we're coasting along. But let's see, this is 850. We would expect that to be about 850. we don't really need. We've got 2830 delta V on our craft. That's good. We're going to spend 853 of it here. That's good. Let's go ahead and turn down Kerbal Engineer. These motors, are they activated? I don't believe I activated them yet. Yes, they are not activated, so I'm going to press spacebar. Now they're activated. You can see they've got fuel requirements there. Now let's go find that burn. This is 1 minute and 6 seconds burns. Half of 1 minute and 6 seconds is 33 seconds. Plus 1 second for engine spool up, so 34 seconds. So when this number here says T minus 34 seconds, that's when we want to start our burn. That is a cool looking ship. I like that ship. I would have never made a glider that I'm going to carry to the moon and back, but I'm glad somebody said that was an idea to do a space plane. Oh no, land on the moon. Oh no, do this. I said, why not all three? So let's hear what I say. 34 seconds. Let's go ahead and fast forward up to it. Crashing into the moon is quite an accomplishment, actually. It means you had more than enough velocity to get there. It's just that you might not have had enough to slow back down when you got there. So I said 34 seconds. There's 40 seconds. We'll turn it down. We'll line it up. Wow, this craft is totally backward feeling. Alright, there we go. Let's start a burn. Thank you, Kerbal Space Program, for completely inaccurately determining what my burn was supposed to be. I do not understand why it does that. I should have known better than that. This is going to be way off. That's okay. It's because I separated the stages and I never lit these engines up in the way that it calculates how much your burn time is going to be. It for some reason, I don't understand why, it requires you to throttle the engines up and actually burn them before it'll calculate the maneuver node time. I don't know why it can't say, well, he's probably going to run them at full throttle. Why don't I just use the engine's output at full throttle and assume that that's how fast he's going to be using the engines? I do not understand why it does that. We're going to be a little sloppy when we're coming into the moon here, but that's okay. Also, apparently the way I set that up, the moon hadn't risen yet. Well, let's see here. We're getting on out there. Let's see how the orbit's looking. We're not going to be burning fast enough. We need to burn skywards to correct the orbit a little bit. And we're going to be able to get close. The moon should just now be coming up. Yeah, there's the moon just now coming up, right there. So there we are, bending that orbit on around. And we're just going to keep popping the fuel until we get this nice orbit. Even though I botched the maneuver node, because of the estimation time, I didn't want to... Alright. There we've got an encounter coming in on the backside of the moon. There we have a very brief encounter. Here we have nothing. There we go. That's the orbit we want right there. So let's kill this guy. Periaps 753. Not the best periaps in the world, but we'll be fine. We're coming in at a good angle. So we're not coming in way high or way low or anything like that. We're doing good. So basically the next thing we need is to plan our capture burn. In 4 hours we will be using Moss Delta V to go into orbit around the moon like that. I'm just going to set it at 200 and we'll call it a day. 150, we'll call it a day because that's captured. Use my Kerbal alarm clock. Love Kerbal alarm clock. It's down there in the list of useful / required mods. Moon cap. Give me 5 minutes notice. Add an alarm. It's super simple. If you have a maneuver node on the orbit of this craft already and you click add right here, it assumes that you're wanting to add an alarm clock to wake you up whenever you get to that maneuver node. So you just click add You fill out a couple things, you click OK, and it makes an alarm. The good thing about this is if we're off somewhere else doing something else, it'll stop the game and ask us if we want to jump to the ship. It'll actually pause the game for us. Ask us if we want to jump to the ship to do the maneuver that we need to do. So, here we are back here. We've got our lander and service module, command module I guess, and return spaceplane all making a trip to the moon. Not a lot of reason for the spaceplane to go along for the ride, but whatever. And I am going to see if I can bring up this Delta V chart, the subway chart, and put it on the stream right quick. I don't know how to do that. I'm about to figure out how to do that. So first I'm going to need to go get the file. I'll keep talking while I do it. I need to go download the file, which is KSP subway map. Excellent. Here's a copy of the old file. And there's quite a few different versions of this. I am just going to use this one here. The same one, I actually don't know who made it. It's the one that comes up if you search for KSP subway map in Google over there. And so for anybody out there who wants to get a copy of it, all I did was Google KSP subway map, just like that, and it's the first result that came up. I guess a direct link to it I can put in here. Hosted on Imager, it looks like. So the direct link to it is this right here, and that'll get you to the subway map I'm going to be using if you want to save a local copy. So let me do this subway map. Apparently I've already changed the scene, and I need to do image. Sorry for the blank screen there for a second, but I'm just creating this. Desktop. There we go. Open. I don't know what any of this stuff is. Color key. Wow, that looks hideous. Position size. Center. There we go. Now, I don't know if you can see my mouse. Position size, order, move to left, move to right, move up, move down, add. Yeah, I would probably have to put this in some other window. We'll see how it goes without using that. So this is the subway map that I was using to calculate how much Delta V it's going to take me to get to the moon. I put a link for it over there in the chat, what I googled to find it, just KSP subway map, or a direct link to the file hosted on Imager. But it doesn't look like I can actually point at things with my mouse. Yeah, that's lame. I'd have to bring it up in a web browser and do it that way. We won't do that. I'll set that up for next time. But looking at the Delta V map, you can see a tree sort of structure with Kerbin at the very bottom and then the branches going out everywhere, right? And everybody assumes that you're coming and going from Kerbin. And that's kind of how most of these maps are set up. But to read the subway map, what you do is you start where you are right now. So if you're on the surface of Kerbin, you start at the round double circle that says Kerbin at the very bottom. And if you want to get up to low Kerbin orbit, LKO, you find low Kerbin orbit, which is the next stop up, I guess. And you look at the delta V in between it, 4550 meters per second. So if you just wanted to go from Kerbin to low Kerbin orbit, your craft is going to have 4550 meters per second of delta V. That's what it takes to get out of the atmosphere and up to Kerbin. Now, one of the tricks is it doesn't take the same amount of delta V to get back down to Kerbin, because Kerbin has an atmosphere. All you have to do is dip yourself into the atmosphere, use a little bit of delta V to get your craft down to the atmosphere. The atmosphere will do the rest of the work for you and slow back down. If Kerbin didn't have an atmosphere, and you had to completely land yourself using your own power, it would take you about 4550 delta V to get out of orbit and safely land on the surface. You know that that's the case because when you get into the atmosphere, you start to see that re-entry reheating. You see your speed bleeding off so quickly, you may come in at 2,000 or 3,000 meters per second, and all of a sudden you're going 1,000, 900, 800 meters per second. All of that is delta V that you're getting. You're using the delta V, but you're getting it from the atmosphere, the friction of the atmosphere against your craft. You don't have to burn rocket fuel for it. So, true statement, it takes the same amount of delta V to get up to Kerbin and back down to Kerbin, but your delta V can come from the atmosphere with the reentry reheating, or actually reentry friction actually. It can come from parachutes. So if you have parachutes on your craft, some of your delta V can come from a parachute, or it can come from engines if you did a powered landing on Kerbin with some sort of lander craft. All in all, that would be the minimum amount that you would need. Whether you get it from atmosphere, parachutes, engines, whatever, that is what it takes. So, say you were on the surface of Kerbin and you wanted to go to the moon. You've got this big rocket you're putting together, and you want to end up, let's say, on the surface of the moon, right? You would start at Kerbin. You say 4550. All right, good deal. I need 4550. Then I need 860 to go from low Kerbin orbit to the moon intercept. What was my number when we did our burn? My number was what, 857 or something? On the delta V map here it says 860. 853, 857 or something mine was. So that got us the moon intercept. To get from a moon intercept into low moon orbit, you go over to the next thing, 210. So that's another 210 delta V. And then to land on the moon itself, it costs just 640. So if you're sitting on the launch pad and you want to know what the total amount of delta V that you have is, you do 4,500 plus 860, which is, call it 4,600 plus 8, which would be 5,400, plus another 200, so call it 5,600, plus 640, so call it, I don't even know what number I just said. 5,600 plus 600 would be 6,200, 6,250, 6,300, something like that. I may have just messed that mental math up. I don't know. But if you're sitting on the pad, your rocket would need to say 5,600 delta V, all in all, to get you from the launch pad to low Kerbin orbit to the moon intercept to the low moon orbit to the surface of the moon. Now don't forget, you want to come home. So in order to get back home, you're going to have to add up some of these numbers to get back. However, I found that it doesn't particularly cost you the same amount to remove the intercept, again, because you can get rid of a lot of that delta V in the atmospheric Kerbin. You can burn enough delta V to get that atmospheric intercept, and even though your orbit would normally be really elliptical, the apoapse would still be way out at the moon, the periapse would be way down at the Kerbin, that atmosphere will see out of there for you. So you only need a couple hundred delta V to get an encounter back with Kerbin so that that atmosphere can ditch all that extra velocity that you have in that big orbit. Same thing, I'll finish up with this, but the same thing is true for anything. If you want to get to Duna, you start at Kerbin, you go 4,500 to low Kerbin orbit, you go 950 to the Kerbin intercept, which is also Kerbin escape, then you find 110 for the Duna intercept, 370 for the low Duna orbit, then another 1380 if you wanted to land on the surface. So basically, you can start at one place, go to another place, and just add up the delta V you need to get. The last thing that you should know, a lot of the times, this 4550, remember, if you're sitting on the launch pad, you're not going to see the atmospheric efficiency of the engine for when you're in vacuum, right? The 4500 has to be as if you're in atmosphere, like I explained earlier how it changes as you fly out of the atmosphere. So what I typically do is I build the lifter and make sure that it has about 4,500, and then I build the transfer craft and make sure that it has enough besides the 4,500 to get wherever it's going, whether it's the moon, Moho, Eve, whatever its mission is. I try to build that craft separately from the lifter that gets in the orbit. It's just like they say, once you get into orbit, you're halfway to anywhere. And by designing the two crafts separately and then putting them together, you won't have to worry about your numbers being 10,000 delta V. If you're going from LKO to the moon, you just need 860 plus 2 twin plus 640 and enough to get home. So, anyways, that's enough lecturing on that. Let me see if I can get back to KSP here. There's a KSP button, which went to a blank window. And there's this. And here's our craft still going. Any questions? Did that make sense to anybody? Everybody on how to use the delta V map to figure out how much fuel, how much delta V you need to get where you're going? If anybody had any questions or I glazed over some part or something didn't make sense, feel free to ask me over in the chat, and while we do this transfer, I'll be happy to explain it. I just totally made that up, by the way. I've never explained how that works before, so it may have been an absolutely terrible explanation. I don't know. Let's see here. I'll go ahead and get lined up for my burn, which is in 4 hours. And then I'm going to go ahead and put on some time warp. Did that make sense, Canine Officer? Did that kind of add up? I know I kind of glazed over a couple things, like I did some hand waving around exactly how much velocity or how much delta V it takes you to get back home and that sort of stuff. But that's kind of a rundown on how you start at one place and add it up. Really, the most useful thing is starting in low Kerbal orbit and going somewhere else. But even then, it's really important to understand that delta V chart is the best case scenario, or it's maybe not the exact best case, but it's a very good case scenario. It can take you at certain times a lot more delta V to go interplanetary, based on their angle relative to the Kerbal and when exactly what time of year you're taking off, kind of how the planets are aligned. You can spend a whole lot more delta V than what that chart says. That chart is assuming that you're leaving at a pretty much optimum time to make that transfer burn. And I'm going to do a class on transfer burns, where I'll go through and explain how to set them up and how to get to Duna and that sort of stuff. That will definitely be a weekly series that I'm going to be adding here. So we're time warping along. At some point we want to land this sucker on the moon. And I'm just going to actually, let's see here, make sure we have our Kerbal alarm clock set. We do's. We can warp faster than that. 3 hours, 2 hours. Here comes a lunar intercept. Never time warp past an intercept. I think alarm clock would have caught me, but one of my personal superstitions in Kerbal Space Program is never warp past an intercept. How far away are we? 45 seconds. And if you're going to do it, don't do it at high time warps. It seems to throw off your orbit. Like it makes you end up in a completely different orbit than you would expect. So anytime I go into an intercept like this and I'm watching the ship, there we go. I let it do the intercept. Here we are at the moon. And we've got a node in T-19. Alright. Good deal. I'm just going to go ahead and set this node up so that we go all the way down. And I think we're going to launch this mission from, like, I think 50. Nah, less than that. I think 30. I'm totally making this up. Non-atmospheric world, so you don't have to worry about how high the atmosphere on the moon is. What you have to worry about when you're choosing how high to orbit around the moon is whether or not you will have any mountains in your way. And that doesn't happen until you get down to about 7,000 meters, I think. So you pick an orbit like 30, 40, you should be good to go. A lot of times with your lunar stations, you're going to want the lunar stations to be a little bit lower. Because if you're coming and going from the surface of the moon on, say, science missions, right? You're flying to different biomes, you're doing science experiments, you're getting the science, grinding it in career mode or whatever. If you have to fly your little lander craft up to 100,000 meters every time you make a round trip, that's annoying. It's going to cost you extra fuel. It's better to get your station or your ship down closer to the surface, like 20 or 30, and then let the little lander do its rendezvous back and forth like that. So, let's go ahead and fast forward up to this node. Let that moon go by. We were coming in a little bit behind it here. We could have come in a little bit closer to it and it would have been a little bit more efficient, but again, KSP, government funded, horseshoes, hand grenades, will get the job done. Alright. It says 46 seconds this time. Here's Kerbal alarm clock pausing the game and telling me, actually not pausing the game, just slowing the game down to no time warp. Go ahead and delete that. We're watching this ship like a hawk. Node in 4 minutes. Estimated burn 46 seconds. I think that should be correct. 46 is 23, half. So if we split our burn in half, we want that to be T minus 23 seconds. Plus 1 for the engine spool up, which is 24 seconds. So, time warp on down to T minus 24 seconds. Ah! Screech! And then, there we go. Start the burn. Let's go over here and make sure our ship's not falling apart or anything like that. There's that moon. Look at that. Screeny shot time. I need to stop making that caw noise whenever something goes wrong. Anybody? Fans of the movie? Caw, caw, tuki tuki. Class, please, someone know that movie. I'm not crazy, I'm not insane. I think we have already established that caw and tuki tuki do not work. No? Oh, everybody's missing out. There we go. There's a lunar orbit. Periap's at 33. Let's fly it with the old Mark 1 eyeball and make the periaps 30. So I'm going to point retrograde, spool up the engine. Periaps 30. Yep. 30. Close enough. Oh, I've got some parts clipping on my ship somewhere. Something's clipping. Interesting. Not very bad, though. You see how that number keeps moving? Evolution. Thank you, K9 Officer. That movie is freaking awesome. So, see how the number is constantly changing? Maybe this is my superstition. I don't have any absolute proof that this is the case, but I feel like whenever there are parts on a ship that are clipping, it induces some unintended forces that make the ship funky orbit like that. 38, 29.8, 31, 32. And that's one reason I don't like clipping parts. You see people with these wonky things and they say, oh, it's just the game or whatever. I really feel like anytime you have, even over here you can see in Flight Engineer, some sort of weird forces are acting on the craft. And it's 99.9% my belief that this has something to do with part clipping somewhere on this ship. Maybe up here, that's not really clipping. Something we did, something on the side or something on the lander. Just some, maybe even this. Maybe the clipping of this is what causes it. But I found if you make really simple rockets that don't have any clipping at all, it seems like they don't get that jittery thing like this. So anyways, let's fast forward to our next burn. 143 meters per second. In an hour and 30 minutes, a 2-minute and 3-second burn because we've lost one of our engines. We've lost 2 of our engines. Alright, well we definitely want that burn to go a little bit faster than that, so let's give him some fuel. What is that? 340. So half of 340 is 150 plus 2170. That's almost this entire tank. Let me go ahead and just fill this up here, because I would like to get the extra thrust to weight that I get from those other engines. $170. It's not exactly right. That's pretty close. Alright, let's do the same thing down here and put basically the rest of the fuel into this tank. That's interesting. It doesn't look like... Huh. Oh, of course it wouldn't. That's why, because of that fuel crossfeed. Alright, that's okay. This will be enough to get us through the burn. It's not going to be a 2-minute, 3-second burn. The only real way to test how long the burn is going to be is to get close to it. I don't really want to do it here. But we're going to get in close till we're a couple minutes out. We're going to bump the engines. Hey, welcome back, Scott. We're going to bump the engines. And then we're going to see what that new calculation is. 143 should be a 30-second, 26-second burn or something like that, not a 2-minute burn. Alright, into the shadow of the moon here, it looks like. Alright, now we're close enough. Close enough. I'm going to bump the engines, and we'll see how. a 14-second burn. Wow, I even guessed way high. So we'll go on down to 7 seconds. 7 plus 1 is 8. And we'll start our burn at 8 seconds. Second for engine spool up. And then the rest of the time for the other stuff. So here we go, going in orbit around the moon. And we will kill it. What do we got? 39 apoaps, 29 periaps. That's not what we want at all. But we're already so far past the apoaps, it looks like. We're not going to do ourselves a lot of good. Apoaps, 35. 33, 32. Hey, that's close enough. We're not exactly in a circular orbit here. What is that at? 26? I wonder if we can raise that up to 26 is just fine. We don't need to worry about that. We'll circularize at 26. When I know that I'm going to be coming back, see, look at that shake. That shake. When I know I'm going to be coming back and doing a rendezvous, I do like to try and get the orbit circular so that I know about the height to shoot for no matter where it is in the orbit. It's a lot more difficult to rendezvous with the craft when it's in an elliptical orbit where its apoaps on one end is, 80,000 and its periaps on the other end is 30,000. That makes for a difficult orbit where you have to time it a lot better. This way, we're going to keep it simple. Notice how the shake stops. See, when I turn off physics, the physics simulation, the shaking stops. Hey, take it easy, Scott. Thanks for hanging out, and hope we see you again. So notice whenever I turn off the physics warp by turning on time warp, the jittering stops. That's what leads me to believe it's something with the freaking physics simulation and time, not time warping, but something with the fact that the something's clipped or some part's unhappy. It's pushing against another part, making it jitter. Alright, so we're coming around the moon here. That's not Kerbal. We have a 3.5 meter per second burn. I'm not sure we have the... you know what we could do? We could make it a little bit better by turning off this engine. Give us a little bit more resolution on our burn here. Now let's see here. We're going to come on around. I'm just going to start burning at about 3 seconds. Excellent. So now over here we've got 26.1, 26.0. That's a nice stable orbit. Wow, we've got a lot of stuff going on here. We've got that fuel tank still. We've got that fuel tank still. Let's go ahead and turn off our engines. I'm going to treat this guy as a station from a space operation perspective. And stations should not have active engines because sometimes you press the freaking shift key to do something else and it powers up your station and rips it apart. So good space ops is not having your station. We could actually come in for a landing here. Let's deorbit our rover or our little lander guy and see what we got. He is fully fueled. Yes, 180, 45, 45. Okay, who's gonna go? We'll go and send old Jeb down there. So he gets off the ship. Spacebar, let's go. R, lets him fly around, and he's gonna get over to the little lander. Eek! Get back there, Jeb. Grab it. Oh, that was rough. Alright. Board it. Now Jeb is on board the lander. And we are going to let him go on down to the surface of the moon. So, to do that, we've already saved. Just to make sure. We're going to go ahead and decouple this node. That releases the lander. Switch to the lander. Systems check. Pop up the RCS and see if we can't puff off the station. That ain't the right way. There we go. Puff off the station. And there we have a good separation from the little docking bay of the station. This would be a really, really cool ship. If I made this look a little bit better, this would be a really cool ship to fly around. It's almost like a mini carrier. I mean, it carries the plane, it carries this little thing. I think that's pretty cool. Now we're going to flip him around. Point retrograde. And plan a bit of a deorbit maneuver. Let's go for this crater. We're already here. That's easy. Right here. Add maneuver minute 20 seconds. Get me down to the crater. I'm going to try to land about in the middle of the crater. And I always overfly it a little bit. So even though I want to land right here where the mouse is, I make my maneuver node have me overfly it, and then I'm going to correct as I get closer. I really wish that I could click on the surface and set a waypoint or something like that. But alas, it does not let you do that. We are going to have to turn on our engines. They're thrust limited. So now they're not thrust limited. We are going to have to turn on our engines. Apparently it won't let me stage them. So we'll bang them with a wrench. There we go. And I've got a 90 meter per second burn in 34 seconds. That's not going to take this little tiny craft very much at all. And peanut butter screenshot time. Alright, so F2. 15 seconds, let's just say right around 5 seconds we'll start lighting this guy up, because he's not going to take very much time at all to make this burn. There we go, pulling away from the station. The carrier, I guess I should say. And there's our deorbit burn. So all that really is, we're just going down to the surface. If I turned right around right now, and I put that, what was it, 54 meters per second or 90 meters per second, whatever it was I just burned. If I put that back into my orbit prograde right now, I would still be in a pretty good orbit. I could also go to target mode. I could set my carrier, where'd he go? I could set my carrier as the target. I could switch to target mode in the indicator here. Ditch the relative velocity, and I would not be going to the moon. Let's go ahead and we're going to deorbit this way. We've got the shield down. We're not going to deorbit with the panels. We should have enough electric charge. Do these guys have alternators? Negatory. They do not have alternators. Alright, well we may need a... We'll have to see what we need to do with that electric charge. Now I just need to get oriented so that up is up and down is down. I think another mistake a lot of people make when they're trying to land, they have their craft in some totally awkward position, like sideways like this at a 45-degree angle or backwards or whatever, and it makes it hard to know which button to press. I mean, it's one thing to press the buttons and see the nav ball here. It's a totally... I totally just unplugged my mic so I could sneeze. It's a totally different thing to be looking at the environment, the actual 3D representation of what's going on, and know which button to press. That can be really difficult sometimes. So I like to orient my craft so that I know, usually like this right here with the door up. So I know that when I press the D key, it's going to rotate me towards my right, and when I press the A key, it's going to rotate me towards my left. I mean, it's all the normal up and down rotations, and that way whenever I get down to the ground, I have a lot better idea of what button to press to level out the craft. It does get really difficult sometimes. I'm not gonna run out of daylight here, are we? Where's the sun at? Are we in an eclipse? Is the sun behind Kerbal? That's like an eclipse of the sun. Well, hope we don't run out of electric charge. Jeez. I guess we did some better planning here, because all we've got on board here is freaking solar panels, and we've got an eclipse going on, don't we? We do. We have an eclipse of the sun. Oh, brother. That might get dicey. Whatever. Alright. So we're deorbiting down here, right around, let's call it here. we're going to try and kill a lot of that orbital velocity and start coming straight down like that. And you saw what I did there. I mean, all I did was put a maneuver node to kill some of my velocities so that I start pointing straight down. That just lets me know about how long I need to burn and how much orbital velocity I need to get rid of. That one that I just planned was not the world's most efficient burn. I'd like to land in that dark area. Is that where I'm landing? Nope. It's not the most efficient burn, but we're going to get down to the surface. I mean, in terms of space ops, I probably should have also, I don't know, checked the landing gear. Oh, nice. Hey, what's up, Rocky Felly and Dark Husky? I definitely appreciate the follows. Just trying to, well, actually I should be trying to test my landing gear instead of talking to you guys. But there we go, landing gear, check. And let's get, there's our burn. Alright, we're gonna coast on the rest of the way down. Again, that wasn't the most efficient burn because I wasted a whole lot of time on my orbital velocity. Sorry, on my surface velocity. The time I wasted on my surface velocity, I'm gonna have to reburn this because gravity is going to re-accelerate me, basically. Linker. Wow, alright, a whole bunch of people just came in. Welcome, everybody. The mission was to do a little lander on the moon. Lander action here. You can see it's not that big of a deal. We've got a carrier, like a miniature carrier up in orbit that we just detached from, and it's actually got a space plane on it that we're going to use to return our two dudes to Kerbal, and we'll leave the mini carrier here. So that was the mission profile. We're doing it as kind of a learning experience on how to get to the moon, how to deorbit from the moon, how to land on the moon, all the different things that you're going to need to know. I wonder if I should lock these landing gear. When I sink into the lunar regolith, this thing may make me rockin'. If I turn out to rock, I am hoping that I'm going to stream every day, Dark Husky. I want to come up with one sort of, I'm going to call it a class, not to scare anybody, but one sort of class every day, and try to stream one thing every day. What are we at? 6,000 altimeter. We're going to have to start blading this off. What's our radar altimeter? IVA. Radar altitude. Where are you at, radar altitude? There we go. Radar altitude's 2,000. All right. Don't do this at home. That was a bit of a suicide burn, but I know that the thrust to weight on this craft is bueno, so. Now to land, it's always difficult to talk about landing because there's a lot of stuff you have to do very quickly. You saw I killed my orbital velocity, and then you saw that I started to fall towards the planet, and now all I'm doing is chasing the green dot around because I want the green dot to be pointing straight down like that. And then I just want to tap it in. Just get the green dot pointing straight up and land just about under 6 meters per second. And that is an excellent landing speed. Right like that. My screen ratio is making you happy? Well, I hope the fact that I just landed on the moon makes you happy, but you know, whatever floats your boat, man. We're still in eclipse mode. Watch this. When I extend my freaking solar panels, it's gonna say blocked by Kerbal. That's a problem. Look, there's light on him. Where's this light coming from? Blocked by Kerbal? Dang it. Drat. They're just sitting there. What sort of ideas would I run out of? You said I run out of ideas fast. Or look at that, that's perfect. Look how we designed that thing. That's freaking outstanding. Turn the lights off. Extend the mobility enhancer here. Screen ratio greater than landing. Landing was nice. Yeah, this is my monitor. Back in the day when they sold big monitors, this was the ratio they came in, and I haven't had a reason to buy a new one yet. So, I'm glad you like the screen ratio. Let's see here. We're on the surface. We have more than half our fuel left. That's always a good sign. If we had used most of our fuel to get down here, that may be a concern. What is that? 180, 83, 45. We can actually put all of our fuel in that main tank there, which is what I want to do. Then we're going to send old Jeb for a moon bounce here. There's one. Make sure we get... Oh, look at that. That's telling us... Interesting. It's almost like it wasn't able to feed out of those tanks, which doesn't make any sense. Because now look how much fuel we have. It wasn't thinking that it was even be able to feed out of these things. Wow, we've got freaking buku propellant left then. I'll tell you what, I like the ears. The ears are cool. Alright, Jeb, get out of there. Go plant a flag. Here's old Jeb. Ah! It'd be hilarious if he flipped his lander over and was stuck here forever. Alright, Jeb, there you go. Doo-doo-doo. We're kind of in the dark side of the lander here. I don't know what I think about the helmet reflection, because it's totally simulated and it only shows stars. It doesn't show the actual surface of the planet. Plant a little flag. I'll take a little surface sample. There we have the logo. Thank you, Jebediah. Moon landing 201. There we go. 200 level course. Apparently he's stretching out his mouth or something. Let's see if we can't get... Oh, I planted the flag crooked. So lame. Just look at the camera. Yes, this is how awkward Jeb is. He actually plants the flag, then blocks it. Print screen. Excellent screenshot. I will. I will go live, and if you follow me, it'll notify you whenever I go live. I'm going to try to do these every day with different topics or whatever. And if you have topics that you want me to cover, feel free to put it in the chat or message me on Twitch or whatever. I have no trouble putting together a bit of a how-to on a little bit non-standard topics if there's something that needs to be gone over. So thanks for hanging out. Good to have you. Did I already take a surface sample? You have a growing suspicion you're not actually learning anything. That's rude. I like to think that we're learning lots. Made it into friggin' space. Seriously. Grab the ladder. Go back up. Board it. Do some of our other science experiments here. Log gravity data. You'd feel there were a lot more to learn if the R&D were filled seriously. Lame. What does this one say? It doesn't seem like there's any scientific value in doing this. I have never actually done this before in a growing suspicion you're not actually learning anything. Fine. Give me a crew report. A lot more to learn if the R&D facility was open. EVA and give me a while flying report. Same stuff. Wow. So now I have all these reports and nobody cares. That's all good though. Wow, is that Kerbal coming out from behind Kerbin? That's freaking awesome. Turn off the SAS and see if I can conserve my electricity. I really would like to get a new electric charge before I try to rendezvous with the thing here. I've used, what, 6.3 electric charge doing this maneuver. Interesting. Wow, look at that though. You'd see some really cool stuff. You'd be able to see the corona of Kerbal coming over the Kerbin here. That is cool. I wonder how long it's gonna take for me to say. I bet you it's some bogusness like the middle of the sun, the middle of Kerbal has to be unexposed before it gives you any power. But that's cool. So, now we just need to do our rendezvous back with our ship. And we're going to have a bit of a stay. Set as target. We're going to go with our typical... Hey, welcome back, Dr. J. We've got our lander landed on the moon, we've got the mini carrier in orbit around the moon, and we've got the space plane on the mini carrier ready to take Jeb and Bill/Bob, whoever it is, back to Kerbal. So we shall see how that works out. Right now, we had a cool thing going on. We've got a eclipse of Kerbal happening. And, of course, I only have solar panels, so I'm not getting any electricity because of the eclipse of Kerbal. Oh, wow, I wish I could... Oh, yeah, that's cool. There we go. Look at that screenshot. Print screen. So we're just going to sit here. That guy set as the target, and we need to wait till he gets about here. I think it's about right here before we launch it. So we'll see. I can't put the maneuver on that, but I'll wait till he comes around. Let's watch it from this perspective, see if we ever get any freaking... That's so cool. Look at that coming out from behind it. I assume I'll see my charge jump up. There it was! Bam! How cool is that? Here comes the ship. Looks like we'll have completed all of our ops in the daytime. 26, so I've got time to orbit low if I need to catch up. So we're just gonna play this by ear and go for a direct rendezvous again. And I'm gonna guess right there. Alright, F5 quick save, SAS on, throttle up. Turn east, which is 90 degrees. Gear down. There's our target coming up behind us, you see. And let's see what we got here. I think I may need to be going more high. Look at that. Look at that. We're going to be coming in too soon. So we're going to be here, and it's going to be here. I should have waited a lot longer. So we can fix that. Why don't we just burn up a little bit, and we're going to loiter. We'll catch it on the downstroke. So check out what I did there. Right, I was missing it, right? I was coming in too soon. That means I need to waste some time. I need to sit around and, I don't know, scratch my ear or something. I was going to say smoke a cigarette, but I don't condone people smoking cigarettes. I'm not going to say that you need to be doing that while you're in orbit. There's lots of oxidizer involved, yada, yada, yada. So what we're going to do, we're going to shoot a little high. We're going to go over and we're going to waste our time in this arc here. We're going to meet him on the flip side. And there we have our rendezvous, 1.6 kilometers. So I didn't do the direct insertion. This is a quasi-direct orbital rendezvous. I need to burn south a little bit. Can everybody see how we've got the plane of the green orbit there, and we see how I'm missing it a little bit? Most of my separation is because of that plane difference. And I can fix that. I know that if I look straight south, which is 180 on the horizon on the nav ball, right like this, and I burn in this direction, it's going to push my orbit down. Like that. And now you can see we went down to 1.2. So I think we're good to go here. What is our time till here? 3 minutes. So let's plan our rendezvous. Here's the easy way to plan this rendezvous. Focus on vessel, focus on node, I would really like. There we go. The first thing you do, grab radial out and pull it until your apoapse is in the node. See how my apoapse is in the node circle there? That's cool. Then give it orbital velocity. That was way too much orbital velocity. Like that. Until you match the orbit of the other thing. And where's my apoapse? That's not right. There it was. Apoapse in the middle. Right like that. See how I... Whoops. See how I put that apoapse in the... Gosh, it's so sensitive. Close enough. Periapse 15, and then just give it juice until you have pretty much the same orbit That's pretty close. I'm not going to worry about it much more than that right there. So this just lets us plan, right? This tells us that in order to match... Look at those ears. I'm glad I put the right clearance there. I didn't really plan that, but that worked out well. In order to match orbital velocity with the space station, it's going to take a 19-second burn, 320 meters per second. You can see that's the same thing right here, 310 meters per second for the difference. And that just lets me know when I... M-I-C-K-E-Y. That just lets me know when I need to start my burn. So T-minus 10 seconds, if I start my burn, we should be coasting up next to the space station right when we get there. Let's get that ladder in. Let's take these panels down. Safety. Safe space ops, retract your solar panels before approaching a station for docking. That's cool. I won't argue about that. So let's see here. Again, we're going to rotate around so that we know which way is up, which way is down. I'm going to turn our docking lights on like that. Let's go ahead and open a docking port. It has already... Oh no, it blocks the light. Dang you, Kerbal engineers. Oh man. Oh well, whatever. I'm gonna just start our burn here in another 30 seconds. So let's fast forward to that. 30, 20. Look at it coming at us. Wow, this is gonna be a good rendezvous. 10. All right, start the burn. Kill that relative velocity. RCS, extra thrust, please. Within 4. I didn't start the burn soon enough. That's all good though. We got this. Alright, so we missed it a little bit. Now I'm going to point straight at it. RCS, please. Point straight at it and give myself some velocity straight towards it. My general rule of thumb is that I want to be going about the distance divided by 100. So when I'm 1,000 meters away, when I'm 1 kilometer away, I want to be going 10 meters per second approach speed here. That's just my own space ops safety regulation, I guess you could say. It's not anything I saw in a book or anything like that. It's just being able to have policies like that means you don't have to think about the policies when you're doing other things. You're not trying to say, oh, how fast should I be going? How slow should I be going? Whatever. Nah. Just keep it down to about distance divided by 10. And I modify it every 500. So when I get down to 500, I'm going to cut my closing speed down to 5 meters per second. And we're going to coast on into the carrier here. So there's 550. Let's cut this down to 5 without changing our vector much. Well, without changing the heading. Do voice acting? I don't know. I've got way too long as a computer programmer. I've done a lot of public speaking and I've done a lot of instructor sort of stuff. So I used to teach classes to kids. I taught computer camp classes for years and years. Kids would come in and they'd learn how to do programming or web design or video editing. We'd have different course tracks for them. And honestly, I'm looking into doing the same sort of thing with KSP. I think it'd be really cool if there was a sort of Kerbal Space Academy thing going on, and you could go and you could watch the Kerbal Space Academy streams, and you could ask questions during the stream, you know, kind of an educational sort of deal. Don't tell anybody. I just think that'd be really cool. Because it's one thing, I mean, you got 18 million YouTube videos where people have said the same thing over and over and over again. The problem with YouTube videos is they're very static. You know, they're out there, they're done. If you're watching it, you don't understand something, you can't ask a question. If you do it here in the stream, if somebody sees what's going on and they don't really understand it, they can ask a question about it. They can say, wow, wait, how does that work? Like earlier, somebody asked about how to use the subway map, the Delta V subway map. So I brought up a subway map. We talked through how to do it. I think that if you want to learn how to play the game and have a lot of fun playing it, that's really the best way to present a lot of this content. So here we are back at the station. Let me go ahead and get this Get this approach done. And while I was talking there, I was pushing green. I was making sure my relative retrograde marker matched with my relative position marker. Let's go ahead and slow down a little bit more than that. I'm supposed to be going 0.4. Chat. Yeah, well, long ago and far away, I cut my teeth as a programmer. Back in the day, call it like 2000, I was programming. It's been a long time since I've done any actual programming. Let's tuck this guy back in. I think we can go for a docking by tucking it back in. More recently, I was a software architect, so I actually ran teams of programmers doing programming-related stuff. Whoa. Involving delivering solutions that clients love to use, or whatever the heck our motto was. Alright. Let's get this docking done. Hey. Set as target. There we go. So another mod I've got going here, I've got my docking port alignment indicator. I love this mod. This mod is so freaking cool. And I'm just going to point at the red ball, which says how I'm aligned relative to the docking port over there. It feels like I didn't balance this thing. I went through a whole freaking discussion. We did an earlier session on using RCS Build Aid to balance your... Wow, I'm going wrong. To balance your craft. And then I put this one together without balancing it. Way to go, Valdez. I almost feel like the station's got a rotation or something to it. We'll see. So this is going to be a little bit of a funny docking. Let's go ahead and bring it on down. Kill that velocity. Puff ourselves down towards the carrier. And we're going to kind of come in for a landing here. Basically. That station is definitely turning. That station is drifting in space. What is going on? Huh. I am not drifting like that. That has to be the station drifting. And in. Oops, again, in. Alright, I puffed it in. Let's try it from this angle. Line it up that way. There we go. Puff it to the side a little bit. Kill that. Somebody's spinning, and I don't think it's me. Or maybe me. Puff it back that way a little bit. And I'm just tapping. I'm just tapping the keys. That looks good. Alignment looks good. Close speed looks good. That alignment looks okay. This craft weighs very little, so we can really leave it up to the magnets once we get close. There we go. There we go. There we go. Ham and eggs. Welcome, ham and eggs. We just landed on the moon. We redocked our lander with the carrier here, and we're about to send old Bill and Jeb home in this space plane / re-entry glider. So that's where we are, and we'll leave all this equipment up here in orbit for future use. So, I think it's time for re-entry. For a return to Kerbal, I guess. Let us... what am I focused on? I think I'm focused. It looks like there's something there. No, there's not anything there. I'm focused on the maneuver node. Firehawk 6734. How's it going? I think I'm gonna have to press tab. Focus, minimus, focus, Duna. I'll tell you what I can't do. That is press shift. Moon module. There we go. Wow. I don't know what's going on. I'm definitely not that far away. Focus sun. I am completely confused as to what's happening here. Did the ship self-destruct or something? What's going on? I've lost the ship. It's like cloaked or something. What the... Alright. Yeah, I think that's what we're gonna have to do. Mr. Minecraft Grand Theft Auto? Is that what that is? Yeah, I've zoomed... No, look at this. I'm zoomed all the way in. I've zoomed all the way out. I've tried the tab thing. I have no clue. Even in this mode, it's gone. So I'm going to try to go back to the Space Center and see if I can't come back to this. I have absolutely no clue what just happened there. But it was no bueno. Alright, Space Center Tracking Station. Moon Module 201. Moon Module 201, that's us. It's in orbit. It's got a stable orbit. Let's see if it exists. There it is. I honestly have no clue what just happened there, but hey, problem solved. Shut down these engines again. Good space ops. So here we are. I almost feel bad that we're not taking this thing back to Kerbal. Huh. Are we throttled down? Yeah, we're throttled down. 1538 Delta V. We could actually take this entire thing back to Kerbal. 1538 Delta V. I can return to Kerbal with that. Huh. So let's... I guess one of our challenges is going to be that the rocket's going to be quite unbalanced. Because we designed it to fly with both of these things full. So maybe if we take out this 180 fuel. Alright. Let's remember that number. 180 fuel. We're going to put 180 fuel over here into the middle. This is Sandbox, Ham and Eggs. We were doing it as just kind of a proof of concept on whether or not we could do moon missions, like a quick how-to on how to do a moon mission. So this is definitely Sandbox. I do play a huge career mode as well. Oh, I only have 105 over here. I think that we're gonna have enough control authority with the reaction wheels that we don't have to worry about that. Wait, what? Wait, what? Let's get old Jeb over into the proper thing here. We're going to try and take everybody home here. Including this thing, because it would be awesome to use this same ship for other missions. Although it is kind of a little bit silly to carry the... Where are we at? Where are we at? Carry the space plane around with you. Where's the ladder at? There's the ladder at. Yeah, I picked up science, and the game made fun of me for picking up science. It was saying, doesn't feel like you're learning anything. Too bad the R&D facility isn't open, jerko. Like, the game definitely was very cheeky with me in terms of whether or not it made sense to pick up science. Alright, there's that. Let's check our Delta V. Delta V comes in at 2263. 2263. That is a number I can get behind. And I believe that I can fly with the space plane tacked in there still good, and with this guy only connected via the docking port. I don't think that he's going to be a lot of problem. But just in case, I'm going to go ahead and deactivate his reaction wheel. So, let's plan our Kerbitive, whatever, re-entry here. I'm going to guess that we need to be right about there. I'm going to guess. So here's the thing, right? A little counterintuitive. We don't want to burn at Kerbal. That's not how we get home. What we want to do is blah, 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 blah. What we want to do is eject ourselves from the moon, retrograde to its orbit. So see what I've done here. I've got a little visual aid. I set up a maneuver node on the far side of the planet, and I gave it enough prograde delta V so that the line is pointing retrograde to the moon. Remember, the moon is going to be orbiting around in this direction to our right, and I want to eject myself retrograde from the moon. Here's why we do that. Whenever you're in orbit, if you want to lower periaps, you burn retrograde, right? So this way, not only am I escaping the moon, but the energy that I put into escaping the moon also helps me lower my periaps with respect to Kerbal. See, once I get that escape from the moon right there, my periaps is already going to be 905. That's almost all the way home. So all we really have to do, we can do it like this. Let's see if I can, how much efficiency I can get just by my burn time. Wow, that's jumping around like a mad. What is that? 90. Now, we're not going to get too much from that, but if I keep doing my burn, 843. All right, here's how I want to do it. I'm just going to burn to escape, straight retrograde like that. 958. I'll take it. So that's going to give us an NA burn. Thank you. Yes, an NA burn. The burn is going to take us NA minutes to accomplish. Ay, ay, ay. Let's go ahead and prep for it at least. Here's something you might notice. This is a station and docking sort of thing, right? Watch when I move this ship around. You see how my little guy, my little ship that I docked, my lander, is not really flying all over the place? I think that has a lot to do because we toggled the torque. If we turn the torque back on, and I do it, it's hard to see. Can you see how it's kind of, it's working against it? See how it's kind of wiggling? Let me see if I can zoom in. You see that wiggle there, right? A lot of people have problems with that, and sometimes it can get out of control. What's happening is the reaction wheel in this command module is trying to follow the command inputs from the main core up here. But the problem is it's not connected to the ship very well. It goes around this corner, down this girder, into the rest of the ship. And so you get that wiggle in it. See the wiggle? That's not good. We don't like that. So what I did is when I toggle the torque on the command vessel, and I do that, see how that wiggle mostly goes away? I have a little bit of inertial wiggle just because this has mass and it needs to change this direction. But all of that overpower that happens from having the torque in this little command module, you turn that off. I could do the same thing with the space plane. If the space plane wasn't battened down like this, still have struts on it, I'd go in here and I'd toggle the torque on its, whatever those things are called, its pods, its cockpits as well. So that's something to think about. Just when you have some sort of control authority device, like the reaction wheel inside the command module here, out on a limb, this is connected in a very circuitous way. It may help you control your ship if you toggle the torque on it. Just turn it off and you may have a less wobbly ship. How are we doing here? 12 minutes to burn. So let me find my burn. There it is down there. I see they're making some drastic improvements in the next release. Honestly, out of all the improvements that I saw, the fact that they were putting the nav ball, prograde, retrograde, anti-normal, normal, radial in, radial out, blah, 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 markers in the nav ball itself was a huge deal to me. I could honestly care less if they had more spaceplane parts. But we'll use them when they get here. Let's see here. 12 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and fast forward up to this burn, even though we don't know how long the burn is going to take. And have a soda while I do it. Alright, there's 3, there's 2, there's 1. So here's another trick. When you need to bump your engines to have this calculation kick in here, you can actually shut down that engine, throttle it all the way up, activate it, kill the throttle. So that way we didn't really screw with our orbit much, But now we know that it's going to be a 28 second burn. We want to bracket our maneuver node, so 28 divided by 2 is 14 seconds. And that means we're going to start burning at T-minus 15 seconds. I think ham and eggs, I think I agree, and I think that that's the reason that I don't like the spaceplane mods, just because there's too many freaking parts in there. I'd really like it if they had focused down the parts a little bit, and I hope that that's what they do with the 29. I fast forward time on the long car, bus, boat trips all the time. It's called playing games. Anytime I'm not driving and I can play games or something like that, the time goes right by. I love to read. I read a whole heck of a lot. And I used to travel full-time for work. And I'd fly every single week. I'd be out on Sunday flying somewhere, and I'd be coming back on Thursday or Friday. And every single week I'd have a new book to read. Tons of science fiction and fantasy sort of stuff. Just all that stuff. Bunch of Terry Pratchett. People know Terry Pratchett. A lot of the old stuff like Asimov and that sort of stuff. Larry Niven in the Ringworld series is good. If anybody wants any recommendations on science fiction to read, I can totally provide them. That is, I have a huge shelves and shelves of that stuff. Also, I need to execute a maneuver. So here we go. It doesn't seem like we're too off. Check this out. We can see how unbalanced our craft is by looking at the control. I've got SAS on here. Down here you can see that it's yawing a little bit, but it's able to control with the reaction wheels, keep us straight. So the craft is a little bit off balance just because it's requiring this yaw input to stay straight. And stop. But it wasn't enough. See, we got a little bit of a wobble there at the end of it. Not that big of a deal. Control authority from the yaw and all these reaction wheels we put in, and the big module up here itself, was able to keep us flying straight and true. So, I'm going to take some dinner here in a bit. So I think I'm going to, after I get this mission on back, I do need to go and get some dinner. I've been streaming for about 4 hours, it looks like. Did 3 or 4 different sessions. But then I probably will be back this evening, and I'll do another demo session just to see how these little educational things go. Rocky Felly, give me science fiction, skip the fiction. You need to read a book called Out of the Sun by an author called Ben Bova. You will love, if you like science fiction, but you want it to be mostly based on reality, an old school book written in the 70s that is called Out of the Sun by Ben Bova. Totally write that down, because it's a paperback. Half the paperback is the story, which concerns lasers in the Cold War. The other half is the scientific research that he did in order to write the book and not look like an idiot. So all the stuff at the time he came up with, well, this is the state of our technology, and this is where we are, and this is how a laser works, and what a laser does, and whatever, right? All of those things he was able to put into the book. Hey, Stephen Baxter, I like Stephen Baxter as well. He just did... He wrote it with Terry Pratchett, and it was The Long Earth. The two things in The Long Earth, The Long Earth, The Long War. Anyways, Ben Bova, Out of the Sun. It's half technical manual on the state of laser technology at the time that he wrote the book, and the other half is a story written using that information. So cool. Stephen Baxter, I like the Long Earth stuff that came along with Terry Pratchett. That was good stuff as well. All we're really doing is leaving the moon's sphere of influence here, so let's fast forward. Let's see here. Who else? Niven is more fiction than science. I just read one, what was it? I guess it's not as much science. But I read... The Accidental Time Machine. I forget who it's by. It's on my shelf. It's the first book I've ever read by that author, so I get a pass on not knowing his name. Venus was good. The entire Grand Tour is good. I mean, he has a series of books called the Grand Tour where they have things that happen in each of the different planets. Life on Jupiter, rings of Saturn, sort of stuff. There's couple things that happen in the asteroid belt. One to Mars. Venus was good. John Varley. Haven't read John Varley. Oh my gosh, Ben Bova. Y'all don't start buying Ben Bova books for some reason. Every time I go to the used bookstore, you can always find a ton of stuff by Ben Bova. I don't know what the deal is. I'm fine with it. That's apparently somebody's trading those books in, because I picked up 3 more yesterday by Ben Bova that were $1 each, like $1.25. I was like, freaking mother load here. Some real life. I do like that. I mean, Firehawk, the fact that hang on, I'm watching my I'm trying to read the chat. I'm trying to watch the SOI change as well. I don't read the science fiction stuff because of the fiction in it. I read it because of the science in it, and I read it because it sometimes has real stories, like things that you can relate to. What in God's green earth just happened? I hope I didn't warp past that SOI, or we're all doomed. It's just orbit. There we go. Much better. Alright, so now we just need to go ahead and lower our periaps. Let's get that done. We're going to do that. I wish we were at apoaps. I didn't exactly do that that burn correctly. But let's go ahead and lower this some. We got the fuel for it, I believe. I do believe. Because remember, we got to fill up the tanks on that space plane so that it can come in for a landing too. And I'm going to aero brake this guy a little bit. That should be interesting. You're going to aero brake a craft. I'm not going to aero brake it much. I'm going to take it down to like 60 maybe. Just to get a little bit of efficiency out of it. I'm going to aero brake a craft that has a space plane strapped to the side of it. Not among my more brilliant maneuvers. I wish I could use the aero braking calculator. Call it 55. I think that's barely going to slow us down. I'm going to try 50. And then I'm going to quick save it. Because that's how I roll. Alright, we got some fuel left. This seems... Contact. 97. Contact! Contact is awesome because that's the one that's filmed out at the Very Large Array. All the white dishes in the background, you can actually go to the Very Large Array, which is in the middle, smack dab in the middle of New Mexico, the state of New Mexico, and you can visit the Very Large Array and get a tour twice a year. It happens to be at the same time that the Trinity site, the place where we exploded the first nuclear weapon back in 44, 45, both of those things have an open house every year. And if you're ever in New Mexico or near New Mexico, you go, you see the Trinity site, you walked on the ground where we blew up a nuclear weapon, then you go over to the Very Large Array, you get to do a tour of the command center, you get to see their, 36 or 42 dishes or however many they have on train tracks out across the desert. It's just so freaking cool. I mean, I didn't know the Very Large Array is so sensitive that they can measure continents bouncing, apparently. So whenever there's a continental, like a landmass, plate tectonic sort of stuff, and one continent slips off of the other one, the continent bounces a little bit, apparently. And they can measure the bounce of the continents by studying the radio frequencies coming into the Very Large Array. I mean, that's nuts. So let's see here. Where's Kerbal at? Kerbal's still way over there, and we're time warping, not talking about the Very Large Array. Red Thunder. I will write that down. I will always give things I give new authors a try, especially if somebody who recommends it will vouch for it. Because I love reading. I constantly am reading those freaking books. Any solar panels extracted? No. How's our orbit look? Let me do a little bit of actual work here. Just 1 second. 50. Not sure how that's going to work, but we're going to see. That may be too deep. I really wish that it was built into the game and it would show you your resultant orbit after you pass through the atmosphere. If they had that differential equation plugged in, and even without physics calculations, I wish it could just figure out how much you were going to slow down. Slow change. That's awesome, and I'm not even going to complain about the fact that you posted a link there. That's like, how do vaccines cause autism? And you click on the link, and it's like, they don't. Anybody have any bright ideas on how to do this aerobraking maneuver without ripping the space plane off of the side of this thing? I think we put the space plane on top. I think we activate the control surfaces. And we fly it like a plane with this huge bomb underneath it, I guess. And I hope that the little lander doesn't doesn't come off. I guess I need to flip around and do a prograde re-entry here. I like the design of this little carrier. This thing looks cool. I mean, it almost, with the wings almost on it, it almost looks like something out of a Gundam sort of deal. Because those guys always slap extraneous wings on everything anyways. Control from here. I almost... Oh, you know what would be awesome? I wonder if I should move both the astronauts into the space plane just in case we need to do an AXA, like a emergency decouple. Nah. Well, I can, but I'm gonna go ahead and get this entire thing. Yeah, thank you, Sloan Reynolds. I'm gonna put the entire thing into orbit first, and I'm totally guest testing and revising here, given the lack of a little bit of a planning tool. Let's see what our time is down to Apo Apps. Hey, it's the telephone. I will get that later. Nose first. Yes, thank you, nose first. That's how we're going. Life on a neutron star. That's interesting. Dragon's Egg by Warren. Ramen. I loved the Rama series. Rama? I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it, but I know that it was freaking cool. It was like a little bit more believable Ringworld, right? Niven and Ringworld is total like out there science fiction. The freaking herd and what are the puppeteers, I guess it is. All the wacky aliens like the Kins and that sort of stuff. It's got a lot of fiction in the science fiction there, even though I do like his technical descriptions of how the Ringworld works and stuff. But Ramo was kind of the same sort of thing. Markoscopic alien-produced structure, and comes passing near Earth, but there's no wacky alien creatures in it. Until you get to the very end, and I kind of felt like it went off the rails a little bit at the end. If you've gotten to the end of the Rama series. So let's see if I've dipped too deeply here. I should have put the astronauts in the... Let's see how this affects our prograde. We don't really need our vessel information. We need to point down. And let's fly this puppy home. This thing just looks cool. I would have never designed something with a space plane on it like this, unless somebody had tossed it into chat and said, "You know what you should do? You should put wings on it." So let's see how deep the rabbit hole goes here. We've got just about 1,000,000 meters on the Apo Apps right now. And we are kind of deorbiting with... That guy's a little bit off kilter. I don't think it's going to be a problem. Let's see. 62. Watch this number go down. I'm dipping into the atmosphere. I'm at 60, and it's killing off some of my orbital velocity, which is going to make my Apo Apps degrade there. And that's what I want. I want my Apo Apps to degrade. I just don't want it to degrade too much. So there we're at 55, and we know our parry is in 30 seconds, so we've got another 30 seconds. Yeah, this is barely gonna affect us, it looks like. I was pretty cautious. And I don't even think I'm gonna get any... Yeah, I'm way too high. The atmosphere is way too thin for me to even get any reheating effects. I've saved a little bit of delta V, but I mean, look, we took off 100,000 kilometers. Wait. We took off 1,000,000 kilometers, actually. Yeah. So that's fine. Whatever. We're getting some efficiency out of this. I almost want to just like go flat to the wind and see how much I can how much I can bleed off. But what is this? That's 2,000,000 kilometers we've reeled our orbit in here. I mean, you can see that orbit shrinking. It's going to shrink more and more slowly. And I think I'm going to flip around backwards and try to kill my velocity once we get up above 60 here. Because that's going to say that I'm back out of the thickness, the soup of the atmosphere. See how this number has slowed down its rate of change? The atmosphere is just not thick enough to slow me down too much more. Hopefully when we get to 60, it's also not thick enough to rip my wings off. So let's flip around and throttle up and kill off the rest of that orbital velocity. Yeah, there we go. Look at that. That's what we like. Now I want my apoapse to stay high. I don't want it to come all the way down. I'd like it to be around 100 or something like that. Put her in a parking orbit at 100. If we have the fuel for that, we're going to see. I could have done multiple passes, but that takes... I mean, in the real world, if this was an unmanned probe and you didn't have... You had all the time in the world or whatever, you'd pull one of those Rosetta maneuvers and you'd sling this thing all over the freaking solar system. It could do 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 aerobraking passes just to reel the orbit in a little bit every time. But since I'm streaming it, I'm going to go ahead and burn the fuel to kill the orbital velocity here. So let's see. I just got to watch that periapse. Now we're so far past the periapse, we're not really getting a lot of efficiency out of this. What's our time to apoapse? 26 minutes. That's fine. I can deal with that. So we'll coast on up to here and we'll fix our periapse so that it's about 100. Click on the periapse. Increase it up to it's about 100. That's a bug I wish was fixed. How those numbers overlay, or I wish something could be done to make that not happen. There we go, that's 100. Got a 4-second burn in 25 minutes. So we saved some fuel doing that maneuver. We didn't save all the fuel in the world, but we definitely saved some fuel. That tank is still totally full. That tank is locked down. That tank is totally full. Yeah, we've got more than enough to fuel up our space plane here. It's not a space, it's a re-entry glider. I feel like I'm cheating because it's not a space plane. We did not go to orbit using it. It's a plane that rode around with us in space and we will use to return home and hopefully land on the freaking runway. Yeah, if you click on the periapse, you can make it go away, but sometimes when they're overlapped, it's very hard to actually click on only one of them and make just the one go away. That's my complaint with that. Just the way that they're overlapped, that's kind of annoying. So we got a 4-second burn. Half of that is 2 seconds. Add a second for engine spool up. We're going to burn at T-minus 3 seconds. Ah, no we're not. We're going to zoom past it, and then I'm going to just make a fool of myself, and then I'm going to burn really hard, and then we'll make up for it. The end. 80, 101 on the periapse there. 83.7, 206 on the apoapse. And now we're just going to do a circularization thing. We'll put our carrier in a parking orbit, then we'll take the guys down to the surface on the spaceplane. 136, 125, 111. Watch for the flip. There's the flip. 101 and 103. 102 and 100. Radial out a little bit. 98, 103, that's not what we need. 100, 101. Horseshoes and hand grenades. Close enough. Alright, that burns in 29 minutes, and at the 35-second burn using 357, 938, we're good to go. We have a whole tank turned off. No worries. Let's warp up to that so that we can get this guy re-entered. 'Cause I'm hungry. 18, 17, 5. So a 35-second burn, half of 35 is 15, plus half of 5, which is 17.5. Add a second for engine spool up, so 18.5, call it 19 seconds. And we will start our burn at T-minus 19 seconds to split it over that maneuver node. 19. There's 30 seconds. We'll let it count down in regular speed for now. So let's see here. That ship, that just looks cool. We're going to build more carriers like this. We will come up with an entire... I should shut up and burn. We'll come up with like an entire fleet of things that carries things like that. That looks so freaking cool. I have not built one. I've built a carrier before, but I have not built one like that, so... I think we'll be seeing more of those. Probably back over in the actual career save, we'll come up with a cool sort of carrier that does something useful for us. Wow, I'm feeling a little off-center here. It's acting a little wonky. Burning sideways. Yeah, 101.97. I overshot that burn just by a little bit. Quick, fix it, burn prograde. Stop. Stop. There we go, right there. Alright, so here we are. We have a stable orbit around Kerbal. The space plane's ready to go. And where are we in relative... Oh, man, did we just pass over? We're directly over the KSC right now. So we got another orbit. I should have looked into that. Poor planning on my part. So let's get our guys switched over to the space plane here. F5 them. And we're going to go ahead and EVA Bill, who will go in the back seat. Spacebar R, turn on RCS, fly around to the space plane. Whoops. Entering space planes is kind of difficult in space sometimes. You've got to get to where you can grab on. Board. Oh, well, apparently not. He just got right straight in it. And then old Jeb will get in the driver's seat. Spacebar R. Flippity fly around now. Oh no! No bueno. No bueno. Alright. Did we leave a probe core on this station? Does anybody remember if it's got a probe car? Board. Now we're both on. Let's see here. With KSP physics, it's possible to blow up because they hit the atmosphere so hard. No, you won't burn up by hitting the atmosphere. You have to have a deadly reentry, basically, to get that going. It looks like they've already answered it there in chat. Ham and eggs. I don't have deadly reentry, but if somebody has a link for deadly reentry, it's fine if you post it over there in the chat so that Dr. J can get it. So let me extend these panels for station keeping. Space operations. Not the best. Station keeping policy dictates that stations point north. So we'll find north, and we'll point north. There we go. That's good. Lock it in. Now we have a northward pointing station. Looks kind of like a bug or something in space. And now we need to orbit on around until we... I like this. I think it's pretty. Screenshot that a little bit. And orbit all around till it's time to de-orbit. Before I forget... we're going to have to activate that engine. We'll have time for that. We're going to have to open those. We'll have time for that. We've already got our reaction wheels on. Operational. That's fine. And we're going to need to... I gotcha. Don't forget the air intake. Thank you. Yes, the air intake. Master of Vice T. Wow, you've been here for a while and you've been paying attention. I appreciate that. Plus, iced tea is freaking delicious. It's one thing I don't argue about moving out to North Carolina. Everybody's got their sweet tea. I have no trouble with that. So let's fuel up our space glider. It's also not a glider though, because I totally fuel it up. I wonder if I should just put liquid fuel in it. 82 kilometers per hour. That's not very fast. Get up into that thinner atmosphere where you have less atmospheric drag, and hopefully the speed is a little bit nicer to you. I am gonna have to put some oxidizer in here, but I don't need to bring all the oxidizer. I just need enough to deorbit. So I think maybe half this oxidizer will probably be too much. There we go. Oh, 109. Good enough. Have a tank. Whatever. So let's see here. We're good to go. Station is parked in a nice stable orbit. Solar panels retracted, extended. It doesn't look like we put a probe core on the station itself. I thought I had slapped one in here, but it's not there. I don't think that we actually did that. So, apparently, this thing will only function insofar as this little probe core on its lander is there. Otherwise, it's just dead weight. So let's see. Where do we need to deorbit? I can fly to the space station. I'm going to deorbit from the middle of Kerbal Asia over here. I don't know if that's what this is, but I usually use this mountain range right here. So we're going to go ahead and F5 it, because that's how we roll. Nice. And we're going to... Huh. So, there's no RCS on the plane. There's no way, I mean, we can decouple it, but there's nothing to actually push it away from the station. I mean, we could use the rotational lever arm effect and just push ourselves away. That is one option. Or I could try to use the RCS. I don't know if it would work. I could try to use the RCS on the lander to pull the station away. We'll get away from it. Whatever we need to do, we'll get away from it. Alright, so let's do this before the sun goes down so people can see what's going on. Get the green flash going on over there. So, F5 just to make sure. Let's go ahead and go for decouple. Decoupled. There's our space plane. And controlling. I'm controlling the major part of the station, it looks like. RCS on. Puff me away. There we go. That should not be working, but apparently that's working. You can see in there these little RCS nodes are blowing their RCS exhaust directly against the fuselage of the carrier. Law of actions and reactions. We should not be moving anywhere. Same reason you can't put a fan on a sailboat and expect it to blow itself around. Physics do not work that way. But anyways, here in KSP we have special physics rules. And it works just fine. Let's activate our rapier there. We're good to go. We've decoupled. We've got 2 dudes on board. And let's get on home. That's cool. I'm a fan. I'm a fan. I'm glad I did this entire stream simply because we put together what all the different people said to do. This is what we came up with, and it's freaking awesome. We will have to design a new plane or a new docking mechanism or something. We may have to redesign this guy. So, Kerbal, India. Kerbal, Asia. The Kerbal planet's going to rotate. I'm going to guess here. Add maneuver. Ditch some orbital velocity. And put my periaps just past the little island over here. Which is going to be right there, I think, when we rotate around. That's way too steep. But let's see how it works. Let's fast forward up to it and See how it works. Why don't you like the rapiers, Dr. J 3199? I don't use them simply because I don't make too terribly many space planes, and so the dual mode operation is not really high on my list of things that I need. And they're pretty inefficient for the rest of the time. I mean, maybe if I had a mission go to Lathe or something, you could use them, but meh. It just seems like the ducting that would be required to, in such a small body, the ducting required to pull intake air into the rocket, the combustion chamber, would not fit in that body that they have the rapiers installed on. Because you either have to have an oxidizer injection, or you have to have ducting for that. I don't know. Maybe if you view it as the oxidizers just small injectors, and they just fit into the regular ducting. I mean, clearly we're doing some hand waving anyways. Is that going to be over Kerbal, India? No, that's going to be past Kerbal Mount Everest or whatever that thing is. Let's make sure I'm not running into the station. I think I gave myself enough of a kick that we're good to go. How did I end up on this side of it? Alright. Oh, you write sci-fi stories? That's freaking awesome. Ah, yeah. No, those are definitely valid points. I mean, they use up the liquid fuel. It's really hard to balance how much liquid fuel you need for the Atmo flight with how much oxidizer you need for the non-Atmo flight. That makes a lot of sense. I really wish, I really wish that, oops, I better prepare for my orbital maneuver here. I really wish that in the tweakables in the VAB, you could bind turning a tank on and off, enabling and disabling flow from a tank to action groups, because that's my biggest problem with space planes. It always feels like the tanks, getting the tank balance to feed the fuel correctly is so difficult, and it's like in different modes you want different tanks to feed, and once I'm in space I don't really care what tanks feed, because I'm not worried about the lift versus, am I over Kerbal Mount Everest? Yes I am. Alright, good. I wish that you could tweak and turn tanks on and off, enable and disable tanks with the action groups. That would make my freaking day. So let's see here, we got 40 seconds coming up to our burn, and I'm going to go ahead and fast forward up to it. And we're over the right place, and we're going to go ahead and execute. Like this. What is this? What just happened? Why didn't my motor light? That's turned on. Is it not an automatic switching? Is automatic switching air breathing? No. Why is it not switching? Oh, the thrust limiter's all the way down. Oops. Alright, now burn. And I took how much oxidizer? Way too much oxidizer. Hey, anyone you walk away from there, Dr. J, losing both the engines off the back is not, is not anything to sneeze at. Let's see how we're looking here. We're coming around. I don't feel like we're shallow enough, especially since we're in a space plane. That's going to put us out. Maybe we'll have to do the orbital Immelman, the orbital S-turn, to get back to it. We'll see. But for now, let's do the maneuver we never do, which is yaw around. And I think we're good. I think we're good to go. We have power generation, don't we? Electric charge. Yeah, we're okay, we got the RTG on the back there. Good to go for that. Check the gear while we're in space. Gear operational. Yes, sir. Gear operational. Let's turn on our lights. That's off. That's on. Alright, turn on the lights just to make sure. And I think we're good to go. Do I have control authority? Those wings are flapping. Those wings are flapping. I think we're good to go. Intakes. Let's open the air intakes. This guy, automatic switching, that's what we want. I think we're good to go. You launched... You launched some sort of space plane that was non-STO from the runway using launch clamps? That's pretty hardcore, man. Let's see. Here comes up Kerbal, India, and let's just coast on home. Alright. That's 60,000 feet. Good view on the range. Target's up ahead. Wish that I could point here. Wow, we're gonna miss it by a freaking country mile. Look how far that is. Ain't no way, no shape, no form that's gonna work for us. So let's slow down a little bit more. There we go. That makes me feel a lot better about my re-entry. Although it does look like we're gonna do the orbital S-turn. Let's burn south and line up a little bit better. Wait, I don't need to waste fuel burning south. I'm in a freaking plane. Let's just re-enter. Alright, so there we go. This guy's going to coast on down. I'm going to let him coast 54. Ah, we're fine. We got this. Let's speed this party up. Physics warp. I'm going to pass over it like I always do, but then I'm going to do my S-turn. Yeah, look how far north of it we're coming in. We could have corrected that. Here's some atmospheric re-entry. Shock heating. We're leveling out. Looks like that means that our... yeah, we pointed straight into the orbit. That means our... wow, look at that. Good screenshot. All right. I am not sure that I should attempt the orbital S-turn, but I'm going to do it as soon as the shock heating turns off here. Let's see if it works. Flip the plane over. Freaking pull up on the stick. Activate the engine. Come on, baby. Gimbal me out. I don't feel like we're going to complete this turn. I'm definitely not turning fast enough, I don't believe. We're pointing straight down. I shouldn't have had the engine firing when I was pointed straight down. 500 off the deck. Pull up! Pull up! Oh! I missed that. If I hadn't fired the engine when I was pointing down, we would have been good to go. Oh, so close. Look at that. Oh, we almost pulled it out. We almost pulled it out. We're going to make that work and we'll go faster this time. Where are we at? Oh, geez. This was our last quick save. Whatever. We're ready to go. Let's do that again. Are we fueled up? We're fueled up. I like that maneuver too much to not go home using that method. All right. One more time. One more time. Because I would like to see that maneuver work. I just left the engine on for a little bit too long. So where were we at? Kerbal, India. We're going to guess right here. We're going to fast forward to it. Da-da-da-da-da. That looks good. Fast forward. There goes the space station away from us. I hope we don't go flying back past it on the other side. Look at the difference in orbit. That's crazy how it moves away from us like that. Now it feels like it's... No, it's not coming back. It's like going around us. That's kind of weird. 2, 1... Let's have a look. That's not good at all. The world rotated a whole lot more than we thought it was going to. That's also not good. That's not enough.